this is where I hand over to the expert to talk us through this particular conjunction that is happening today or this evening here in Central Time at 24, 25 degrees of Aries. So, what would you like to share with us, Shannon, from your perspective about this, I think, quite important conjunction that is taking place?
I agree. It does feel really significant. And, we've all been really deeply immersed in this reprogramming of the I am consciousness, which is the Aries archetype, and the wounds, and the illusion of separation that's been going since for 2000 years or more. And the Aries archetype, the last year and a half, the nodal axis has been in the Aries Libra area of the sky. And so we went through those really intense eclipses with the Libra axis and the Aries, the lover. And so we're sort of have this opportunity to rebirth and to continue to remove the obstacles to the true self. And that Chiron, the wounded healer, is an asteroid that wherever it is in your natal chart is a place of your potential greatest mastery. But there's a wound that we have to heal. And so it's in the sky in Aries right now. So we're all looking at that infraction, or that sense of feeling not good enough or rejected or insecure about moving forward. Aries being the first sign of the zodiac, it's the birth point. It's how we initiate. It's how we activate. It's our volition and our willpower. And so we've been in this portal of transformation for the last couple of years, really, with all the eclipses that were in Aries and Libra. Now, of course, we're moving on into Virgo Pisces, but we just recently had the last Aries eclipse, which was in this previous eclipse season. And there's just so much with the Aries archetype right now. There's been this whole span of planets in going from the last sign of the zodiac, and we still, have Saturn and the node there, of course, in Pisces, which is the end energy, all this apocalyptic energy, and then the 0 point, Aries, the birth, the new beginning. And so there's been this in the collective, this sort of like cha-cha between the old and the new. And are we going, we're in the birth canal and it's bloody and we can't see really where we're going. And so we're all basically doing this really deep reintegration and awakening of the one mind consciousness. And today, with Mercury cozied up there at 24 degrees, it feels like it's this opportunity to rewrite the story, to revisit the story. And I think that a lot of the larger emphasis that is upon us is to erase the programs, to create a new narrative, which is beyond all of the control. It's beyond the slave self. It's beyond all of the ways that we've been programmed, that we're powerless, that we're separate, that we're need to be obedient. And it feels very powerful because it's positively aspecting Jupiter in Gemini, and Gemini is the ruler of Mercury. So it feels like there's this opportunity for a new vision with Jupiter. It wants to go beyond the story, beyond the narrative. It's a time I think we get to rewrite the script, the story, and to really emerge out of whatever the confines of the old programs have been.
Right, yeah, I was just making some notes as you were saying all of that. I love the idea of erasing the programs, as we come back more into a unified timeline that is connected to universal consciousness rather than the more quarantined, fragmented, multiple parallel timelines that we've been living in. What is interesting for me and my spirit guides kind of informed me about this around the time of my accident to prepare me for deletion of my memories, that things would start to disappear because I'd healed the pain in those timelines, both from this particular incarnation, but also from other incarnations. And it really, made me stop and meditate deeply on this. It's like, well, what happens when we repair soul
Mm,
traumas through soul retrieval, through going back into time, that kind of work, which I've done a lot of for myself and for clients, is that the timeline changes and comes
mm,
forward into the present moment in a different way. And of course, if we're doing this through the ancestral lines, it can have a palpable effect on other
mm,
people in our family. But if we're just bringing it back to ourselves, I'm like, so, what happens when we heal all of the pain of the past? We don't
mm,
have those anchor points behind us anymore, pulling us back. We've actually
mm,
let go of them and healed and transformed them. And what I've seen in my own case is that those timelines have different outcomes, all of which lead into this present moment, which is changing the outcome here and now in this present here. So I love that idea. And I think that this is why I'm loving the energy of of Neptune in Aries, it's like we've been given this opportunity to become sovereign through our spirituality, which I
Yeah.
think is amazing.
Hmm. Oh yeah, we're creating the new dream. We're coming out of that illusion state of separation and realizing not only is it possible, but it feels like it's our responsibility to create the new
Just
earth, the new dream. And that
right.
and that takes a lot of commitment and a lot of discipline to do that.
I just wanted to pick up on something you alluded to there, which is that Jupiter is sextiling, of course, this conjunction, but it's also being sextiled by Pallas Athena down there in Aquarius. Do you think that that adds a little kind of inflection to this conjunction this evening, Shannon?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's the warrior aspect, and coming through for this new time, this time of awakening. And I feel like yeah, it's definitely on our side with all of this.
Right. So as we progress from this evening into the full moon in the minute with the slides, how do you see this perhaps as a setup for the full moon? Do you see a link between what is going on here in Aries and perhaps what is going to happen with the full moon in Scorpio in a few days?
I definitely do. I'm just pulling up the full moon chart for myself. One moment here. Yeah. So Mercury's going to continue, of course, on into on into Taurus, and then the relationship is going to change and it's going to start squaring Pluto. So on the full moon, we're going to have a different conversation happening. And so this is, I feel like, a time for us to prepare for going deeper into whatever is going to be revealed during this lunation, and to go ahead and start that rewriting process, to start that communication with ourselves or with someone that's close to us, because Aries, of course, is on the same axis of Libra, which is our relationships.
Right, and then just looking across the dial to Libra, we have the true Black Moon Lilith, who I always find her energy more wild than the mean Black Moon Lilith because I feel like it's more Black Moon Lilith and her natural wild energy, and she's sitting almost exactly opposite this conjunction. And we just had that powerful grand cross where Black Moon Lilith was at 5 degrees of Scorpio, the mean Black Moon Lilith, of course, holding that very powerful opposition between Pluto and Mars, which has been in effect till just really the last few days. So do you have a take on Black Moon Lilith in regards to the mean or the true, Shannon? And if so, how do you see this opposition affecting or not affecting the conjunction?
And I haven't actually looked so deeply into the difference in the two, but I definitely think that there's something that's collective that's unearthing about, the feeling of being disenfranchised, and this, how we've been mishandled, and that we're going to have to deal with a lot of the maybe collective resentments and anger and rage and things that come up whenever we start tapping into some of the collective healing around the infraction to humanity. So I feel like that could be something that's emerging in the field whenever the lunation gets to the exact point with the on the 12th.
Right, so we do already have a number of items stacking up in Scorpio. They are some of the perhaps the smaller asteroids. We have Juno there, we have Vesta, we also have Haumea, the goddess of fertility, and of course we also have the mean Black Moon Lilith that's currently in retro there at no, sorry, Haumea is in retrograde. So we have these energies all affecting. I think when I feel into the energies of Black Moon Lilith, Shannon, it to me feels very much about wounded feminine stuff maybe coming to the surface. But as we're already exploring in this solar energy, which is very yang, very external. We're also looking at the wounding of the sacred masculine. So I think that perhaps to bring balance and non-duality to all of this, what we can say is this is the wounding of humanity in general, both masculine and feminine. How did it happen? Who did it to us? Did we do it to ourselves? Is it all part of a grand design? How do we get out of those very divisive, dualistic, you did this to me, it's your fault, and I'm a victim and you're a perpetrator, all of which you said at the beginning, and it's easy to fall into those places. And what I've seen is it's easier to stay stuck in that place and to confront the fact that the world around you is a reflection of your inner world. So, yeah, do you have a comment on that before we move on to the full moon? I kind of feel that's the segue into very Scorpio energy.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, again, like it comes back to that, I like to think about the fact that the Libra Deacon is the first 700 years of the Aquarian age. So, we need to really just see everything as a reflection, everything that triggers us, everything that's in our field, and see it as the fertile ground for our own awakening. And so long as we're pointing the fingers and we're projecting anything on the outside, then we're essentially just perpetuating that original wound of separation. So this is where I think, like I was saying, like if there's things, emotions um, arising, it's really about just purifying the vessel. It's really not about any kind of blame or kind of retribution, in my opinion. Uh, if we see that our soul chose to be here and chose the perfect storm of circumstances based on our own karmic heritage, then there is no blame. Everyone's just serving us a gift on a platter to be able to eat our own medicine.
You know what? I'll hold to that, sister. I couldn't have put it better myself. And perhaps this is the benefit of spending years in meditation, studying non-duality and duality, that it's easier for us to find that perspective. Because, victim perp is an old dynamic, and it's one that we've sort of been programmed to get into and to feel like we're always the victims, and that just has its own cycles. But if we are to progress truly into being cosmic humans, we need to let go of that, and we need to stop blaming other people for the things that we signed up to and agreed to before we came in, which is what our natal astrology birth chart tell us. This is what's going to come up for you, and these are the ways that you'll experience it, where you'll experience it, and how to deal with it. So I love what you said at the beginning there, that our astrology is not something that's fixed. So many times I've seen people get that their astrology is fixed and they have to live through how it started for them. Like surely the idea here, like in evolutionary astrology, is to evolve out of how I came into this world into something that's much more the higher notes.
Right. And I do see a lot of people that continue to get stuck in the story. And,
Right.
I think just even looking at the archetype of Pisces and knowing what the shadow is the victim program. And so we just have to decipher the codes. We're not moving into, we've arrived in the age of Aquarius, which is that Purusha, the one mind consciousness. And so we
Right.
really have to try our best to operate from that perspective all the time. And this is where the Buddhist philosophy is invaluable, of being the witness to the Maya and seeing it all from that perspective. And I often remind myself whenever there's something that seems like it's so intense, why is the Buddha smirking? Because he sees through the illusion.
Right. Yeah,
And so, yeah,
I
easier
love.
said than done a lot of times, but yes, that's what we're striving to do.
Right, I love that idea. Yes, it really and truly, we have some sayings in our tribe. Do everything as if it's the most important thing you're ever going to do in your whole life, and give it that energy and that passion. But also a bit like a Tibetan sand mandala. Be prepared to let go of it in the puff of a bit of wind. And in that moment, we do everything with as much heart as we have, but we're not attached to the outcome of it. Where does it go? What happens to it afterwards? And I always used to sit and marvel watching those guys doing those sand mandalas, and then at the end of it, once it was finished and it was gone. I'm like, you guys worked on that for like 3 days, and now it's just a memory. But it took me some while to understand the profundity of what they were
Mhm.
teaching us through that. And also when you go into the world of Buddhism, you're forced to look at ethics, morality, karma, and you understand that some of the things coming up in this incarnation are probably just a rebalancing of something that you did on another timeline. And so the people who are facilitating those experiences for us, I've learned to thank deeply. It's like, wow, thank you for helping me to balance my karma by being this way towards me. And I know that many people find that very, very difficult. But me personally, I found that it's a very easy way now to get into a place of love, compassion and forgiveness, particularly if people are playing up, particularly in this moment when people are a little perhaps not as grounded as centered as they might normally be.